Hi, and welcome back to Football Made Simple. Belgium are a relatively small country, with a population of around 12 million people. They are dwarfed by traditional footballing nations like Brazil, Argentina, France, Spain, Germany, Italy, and so many more. And yet for the past decade they have been one of the most exciting national teams around, and have consistently been ranked inside FIFA's top 3, led by a golden generation featuring the likes of Courtois, Kompany, De Bruyne, Hazard, and Lukaku. But how has such a small country produced such outstanding talent? In this video we take a look. And if you want to keep up to date with Belgium and any other nation at the Euros, check out our video sponsor, OneFootball. They are the best app to keep you up to date for breaking news, match updates, formations, stats, and anything else you could possibly want throughout the Euros. The best part, it's completely free through the link in the description below. And that's not all. You could also potentially win an England shirt with OneFootball's first giveaway on this channel, as they aim to see who's the most supported team at the Euros. So, by clicking the link down below, you stand a chance of winning the shirt for absolutely free. The 1980s produced Belgium's first golden generation, and things were generally looking up. They lost in the final of Euro 1980 and reached the semi-final of the '86 World Cup. But the 1990s were the start of a truly dark period for them, where Belgium would only qualify for 4 of the next 11 major tournaments, making the knockout stages just twice before their current golden generation would take over. The true darkest point, and as a result the turning point, came at Euro 2000. Belgium were co-hosts alongside Netherlands, but as opposed to making a deep run into the latter stages of the tournament, they crashed out in the group stages, a brutal humiliation, made worse by the fact that co-host Netherlands made it all the way to the semi-final. They realized that a change had to be made. Enter the man who transformed the face of Belgian football, MICHEL SABLON. Sablon had been working at the Belgian FA as a technical director, and having just witnessed Belgium be humiliated, he took the bull by the horns, devising a plan to get Belgium back on track. He sat around a table with other members of the technical team, and on a scrap of paper began to devise the plan that would produce the golden generation. Having observed the youth systems in France, Germany, and the Netherlands, he decided that the overhaul should focus on a few key areas, such as coach education, general youth development, and talent development within clubs. The only saving grace for Belgium at Euro 2000 was that as the co-hosts, they had generated some profit, which could then be pumped into revitalizing their footballing system. One of the ways they did this was by no longer charging any fee for their entry-level coaching force. This increased the number of applicants tenfold who enrolled into the course, meaning that there were more qualified coaches dotted around the country, allowing children to learn from a higher quality source. This was just the start, however. A major problem noted by Werner Helsen, an esteemed sports scientist commissioned by Sablon, was that young prospects were not getting enough hours to train. He noted that their best young talents were only getting 10 to 12 hours of additional training after school, whereas a famous study had suggested that 10,000 hours was the bare minimum needed to become elite at something, and that equated to over 20 hours per week. So, the Belgian FA worked closely with the Belgian government to find a way to give the brightest talents more time to train. This led to the investment of millions of euros into 8 top sports schools dotted around the country. At these schools, players between 14 and 18 would receive 3 hours of training 4 days a week, and that, combined with training at academies after school and on weekends, allowed them to hit the 20+ hours per week metric. In addition, the well-distributed schools naturally created a wider scouting network. A few of the direct graduates of these schools include Dries Mertens, Axel Witsel, Courtois, Dembele, and De Bruyne. The government also invested into the multi-move project, which targeted even younger kids. Its main focus was on introducing motor skills to kids early on, which are just basic movements like running, jumping, throwing, and kicking. By getting an early start in these fundamentals, when they reach the stage of organized sports, they would already have a head start. But the most impactful part of Sablon's plan is known as the Leuven project. At a time when football and science were very much viewed as separate entities, Sablon commissioned KU Leuven to carry out extensive study on youth football in the country. This involved filming and analyzing over 1,500 matches at youth team level, a laborious task but one with important findings. The first was that at young ages, there was far too much focus on winning. Constantly worrying about league tables and final scores meant that coaches were under pressure to consistently play their best players, as constantly losing would stifle their own coaching career. This means that players deemed not good enough at this early stage could find themselves rotting on the bench, and of course get fed up of the sport and drop out. It should also be noted that at this age, height and physical size have a disproportionate effect on perceived skill, so the biggest kids would get all the playing time. So SABLON got rid of league tables at under 7 and under 8 level, and soon all the way to under 14 level, to focus more on player development. To back this up, the concept of forced progression was introduced. So where before, a talented 13-year-old could train and play for the under 16 teams, but then go back down to the under 13 team when the under 13s had a crucial match, this was changed entirely. Now, once a player played for a higher level team, they were never allowed to go back down. So once a player moved up, they would be forced to improve to try and force themselves into this higher level team. But the most important element of the study was the number of touches a young player received. By manually counting how many touches youth players received during training, they discovered that during 11 versus 11 matches, it was possible for the least involved and perhaps least talented players to receive less than 10 touches. And of course, no player will improve by having 10 touches per game. So they scaled things down to give players more touches by reducing the numbers on the pitch. 11 versus 11 games only started under 12 level. Before then, it's 8 versus 8 and 5 versus 5 going down to under 8. And that is where most systems stop, but Belgium took this a step further, with their extremely player-oriented system, meaning that anyone below the under 7s plays 2 versus 2 with a fly goalie. This forces players to get tons of touches on the ball, and also to get comfortable passing, but also in 1 versus 1 situations, which are also a crucial element as they encourage individual freedom and creativity through dribbling. They also ensured that training was more game-based as they moved up. So rather than unrealistic shooting and passing drills, game-like situations such as rondos were introduced to force players to be comfortable making complex decisions under pressure. But SABLON also implemented a systemic change. He realized that there was no unified vision on youth development, with players of different academies used to playing different formations and styles. And the Belgian way was primarily a flat 3-5-2 or maybe a 4-4-2. However, SABLON, heavily influenced by Cruyff and Ajax, believed that the 4-3-3 was the formation of the future, saying that the 4-3-3 was most effective as it allowed triangles in defense and midfield, whilst the wide man got used to 1v1s, whilst also forcing everyone in the system to get used to a zonal system. He argued that the 4-4-2 and the 3-5-2 instead produced workmen-like runners around the pitch. So, SABLON forced every team throughout the country to use a 4-3-3, so that when players from various teams came together, they all knew their role. And at club level, the difference is palpable. During the final qualifier of the 2006 World Cup, almost the entire first 11 was Belgian-based, with only Mpenza, Hofkins and Simmons playing abroad. But whilst the Belgian league is respectable, it's not the highest level, so the local players wouldn't be able to consistently improve. Now, the entire first 11 is filled with players who are used to playing against the best in the world, week in, week out. But the most tangible sign of SABLON's work came at the 2014 World Cup, Belgium's first major tournament since 2002. In the squad, only Daniel van Buiten was too old to have been influenced by SABLON's new system. The rest of the 23-man squad had spent at least a couple of years in the system, showing the true influence of SABLON's revolution. It's difficult to deny that Belgium's golden generation have yet to reach their full potential. A third-place finish at the 2018 World Cup is a great result, but silverware is what the nation truly desires. And perhaps Euro 2020 or next year's World Cup is where this will finally happen. But what do you make of Belgium's chances? Drop it down below. A quick shout out to my Patreons for helping to make this video possible. If you want to support, head on over to patreon.com/footballmadesimple and you'll get rewards like early access to videos and exclusive content. But that's all for today, and remember, keep it simple.